They left no doubt they deserved that appearance after convincingly beating East Perth in a match which represented an elimination final for both sides.
East Fremantle were without the services of captain-coach Ron Alexander and Rod Lester-Smith, both on the injured list, but with the assistance of a breeze in the first quarter, jumped to an early lead. Here, Murray Renstead steers the ball through from an acute angle. Good play from centre-man Neville Fields, who hand passes to Kevin Taylor, and the goal gave East Fremantle a 3-goal lead. In the time-on period, East Perth showed they were not to be taken lightly, and with 2 quick goals, one from Dawson on the half-forward line, they were only 8 points down at quarter-time. The second term started badly for the Royals, with Peter Spencer injured, but his teammates eased the pain somewhat with a great goal from Lance Kelly, who'd moved downfield from centre. The defences of both sides were under tremendous pressure, but East Perth's backmen had no chance of stopping this goal from Mario Turco, who snaps from the boundary line. Late in the quarter, East Perth came back at the Sharks, and Spencer, showing no signs of his earlier misfortune, scores a valuable goal. The third quarter saw East Fremantle storm away and kick 6 goals to East Perth's 1. Brian Needle takes a good mark and scores one of his 4 for the match. Cassidy shows his soccer skills as the East Perth defence is left stranded. And late in the quarter, a mistake by Solon proves costly as John Nolan scores from a difficult angle. In the final term, East Perth showed they hadn't lost their fighting spirit and scored 3 goals for the term, but it was to be East Fremantle's day. And the first time this year they appeared in the top 4 was for keeps.
Before the game started. Among them, Jack Clark and Ray Sorrell. Those same supporters were even more delighted when Kevin Taylor took the field and banged through the first goal of the match at the 5-minute mark. The Sharks did most of the attacking in the first term, and John Nolan in particular was relishing the challenge against his old club. East Perth managed to stay in touch, largely through the efforts of Peter Spencer. Although he aggravated an ankle injury in the second quarter, the champion was unflappable, helping to steady his team with his customary brilliance around the goals. After the long interval, the course of the game changed completely. The Sharks took matters into their own hands, and it rained goals. With so much at stake in the last quarter, it was only natural that tempers became overheated. But the frustrations of the East Perth players were only compounded when Billy Jones slammed through the sealer at the 23-minute mark. A first semi-final berth for East Fremantle, and Ron Alexander was delighted.
And I said to them at the start of the game that people have been telling us we're improving. You know, we're a good side. We've made a lot of ground this year, and even if we don't make the 4, it'll be lovely. Well, I asked them today to arrive as a football side, to forget the improving tag, to arrive as a football side. And today they went a long way to doing that.
The only disappointing aspect of that victory from an East Fremantle point of view is unfortunately their star rover Kevin Taylor will have to face the tribunal next week because he and Mike Christensen were reported in the final quarter for allegedly striking one another.
It was a spot in the first semi-final against Swan Districts, and for the loser, a seat alongside West Perth, Subiaco and Perth in the grandstand during the finals. Well, here's some action from the East Fremantle-East Perth match. It's courtesy of Channel 7, and it's from the 21-minute mark of the second quarter.
Browning coming up towards the right centre wing. Thorne in front. Shane Ellis spoilt well. This is Dawson. Still Dawson. Dawson will get a kick. Dawson to Ironmonger. Big fella in towards Edwards. He's not giving enough Edwards at the moment. Dean Turner. Brennan read it superbly. And look at the pass to Wilson. Just strolls around Ironmonger. Wilson's off. There's nobody within 30 metres of him. Gave it out to Harding. Harding coming across to Taylor. Oh, Magro so far misjudged that. It was unbelievable.
Yes, I think he firmly believed Kevin Taylor had the big jump on him for the ride that he's usually pulls 3 or 4 of these screamers down during the day, but on this occasion Taylor just stood there and took a well-judged mark.
Doesn't like set shots, Kevin Taylor. A kick from 35 metres out. That's exactly the way he ran.
Yes, another one astray.
Umpire's down. Got his hat back on.
Out on the full.
Interchange going to work in a minute. 15 back on Ray Sterrett for East Fremantle. This is Renstead for them. Hooking it into half forward. Cassidy was a target and he must get a kick. Bad play by Sparks.
Yes. Can't afford to give free kicks away within kicking distance of the goal. So obvious ones as that. Russell Sparks normally doesn't err like that. He's a tight back man, but bad mistake.
So Cassidy will kick from 50 metres, and he could really do this. He's a magnificent kick of the ball. Decides instead to go for the lead. Was on. This is Johnson. Nowhere to go. Daru not letting him get around. Finally he does. The full forward. Strong mark in defence by Dawson. He's off. Coming up looking for Williams. Oh, Williams. Good mark despite some attention from Taylor.
Like this boy. Good big heart. Good player.
Daru. Oh, they're all just standing around at the moment. Both East Perth and East Fremantle. This is Christian. He goes short to Spencer in the middle. Spencer and Turner, good hand pass to Sparks. Sparks to Turner. Got Kelly loose if he wants him. Obviously decides that from about 55, 60 metres he can do the distance. Need a goal.
A long way out, he won't make it. But the big fellas in the goal square.
A long kick. Edwards got the sit. Thumped away well. Spencer left foot. Oh, what a footballer.
Oh, beautiful.
What a brilliant effort.
Got up off the carpet before. He was down but not out. He did his ankle badly, the injured ankle. Hobbled around for about 10 minutes and tore the soreness out of it. I think was the mind more than anything else. He overcome the pain and he's back in business. Beautiful judge pick up from the knockout, from the punch away then, and straight to his boot and straight through the centre, and a very necessary goal to East Perth. East Fremantle 7-6, 48. East Perth 7-4, 46 points. 2 points the difference in favour of East Fremantle, John.
Nothing in it. Spencer's second goal. They're off again. This is Scott out from full forward. Browning almost. A chance for
Cox.
Cox on the ground. So East Perth almost in the time-on period of the second quarter, finding a lot of fight. Kick in by Keys. Ironmonger in front. Browning. Green. 32's Renstead. To Cassidy is good play. Cassidy's on the left centre wing. And there's a fight going on behind play, and there it is. Everyone's in it.
For Young and Earl there.
Stephen Green got a clout behind the ear. I think that's what precipitated that. Brennan
play
there.
goes on.
Play still going on. We'll watch the fight. The mark's been taken way down the ground by Brian Needle. John Scott's in that. Rankin is as well. Stephen Green, Browning.
And Kickett's on.
Kickett's on the ground. And Needle from 30 metres.
Looks good.
East Fremantle reply.
81. And as I mentioned, Needle kicked 5 goals, but Jeff Cassidy kicked 4 goals, and he really is a stylish half forward and a beautiful kick for goal. Kicked 7 goals a couple of weeks ago, now 45 for the year. Taylor kicked 3 goals, and incidentally, Kevin Taylor was reported for allegedly striking Mike Christian. So no doubt there'll be a few anxious people at East Fremantle during the week. For East Perth, John Scott kicked 3 goals, and Spencer and Dawson kicked 2 goals each. And we say a very good evening to John Vookman.
Well, thank you, Mike. Yes, it was a magnificent spectacle at East Fremantle Oval. In fact, East Fremantle did it very well right from the outset. And even though they only led by 9 points at half-time, there was an indication that they had more possessions and that they certainly were really hyped up to play well in this game. But in the third quarter, this is when they won the game. And it came because it was almost I guess it was an ill wind that brought them good fortune, because Neville Fields had to leave the ground through injury. He left the centre of the ground, and Murray Renstead came to that position. And Renstead coming to that position coincided with Graham Kickett coming back onto the centre wing for some unknown reason. He'd left the ground too in the second quarter, but he reappeared after half-time. And these 2 players, Renstead and Kickett, simply went through the East Perth defence, cut it to shreds, and resulted in giving their side a 6-goal lead at 3-quarter time. They did exceptionally well, and they were backed by a brilliant defence. Players like Ellis running from defence, Rankin in the back pocket, ran the ball up brilliantly to the centre line, usually with long hand passes, and on the end of those hand passes were players like Renstead, Taylor, Turco, Stephen Green, and these players, when they got the football, they were prepared to play a positive brand of football and bring the ball over to the scoring flank. And East Perth never tried to do this today, but East Fremantle did. And they brought it over to Cassidy, and they looked for Needle up in front of the goals, and these 2 players were very dangerous players in the East Fremantle forward line. Now, this East Fremantle side played very well today. Its ruck played well, Harding played well, Nolan played well, and even though John Ironmonger won most of the hit-outs, these two players were an able ruck battery. They had strong forwards, they had a very good defensive zone, and across the centre they have a very exciting centre line, and I think they're looking in good shape for their big attack on the finals, and particularly against Swans, who have all sorts of problems with injuries and influenza and what have you. But East Fremantle are playing with a great deal of commitment. They're an eager bunch of chaps, and it's full marks to Ron Alexander, who didn't appear today, but they look very good in their quest for the finals. I thought the best players, Graham Kickett played exceptionally well on the centre wing. Murray Renstead is a champion and should poll very well in the Sandover medal. Stephen Green came back to top form on a half-forward flank and later on the centre wing. And a succession of other good players, Jeff Cassidy in command of the forward line. Mario Turco played brilliantly. Kevin Taylor, Needle, and their defence was strong also with Cormac, Ellis, Brennan and Browning. And for East Perth, I thought Ironmonger battled hard against odds. Turner played well with pace, and Williams and Sparks were good tries.
And Claremont defeated South Fremantle by 29 points. Swans defeated Perth by 73 points. East Fremantle defeated East Perth by 49 points in that very important match. And West Perth defeated Subiaco by 12 points to have the final ladder looking this way, with South, despite that loss, one game clear on top of the ladder. And they'll play Claremont in a fortnight's time in the second semi. Swans to play East Fremantle in next week's first semi-final. Well, now let's go back to that early won by 69 points. On June the 11th, Swans won by 94 points. On July the 23rd, Swans by 44 points. So on that record, Eric, it would seem that Swans will have little difficulty next week.
Well, one would think so, but you never know in semi-finals. By the way, talking about the history, it's now since 1912 since a Perth side hasn't appeared in a final round, would you believe? 70-odd years. But you'd be silly to tip East Fremantle unless you're a fanatical East Fremantle supporter, then you'd be silly. But you never know. Final round games are strange things. They tell me I've only played in one, we got thrashed. But Swans, even though they were a little bit lethargic today, and certainly not at their best until the last quarter when they really read the riot act, I do feel that Swans have got too many guns. They also had a lot of players out today too. It's worth mentioning 4 or 5 of their very best players, the Narkles, Shine, Boucher, and these sort of players have come back in, and I believe there's a bit of flu up there too. So they've got an extra week to get rid of that. Swans would easily win the game, first semi-final on form, but you just don't know. But certainly tipping Swans.
Fookie, you saw the Sharks today. Did they look good enough to beat Swans in a semi-final?
Yes, I'd beg to differ with Eric. I think that the Sharks look very good indeed, and I mentioned previously they've got all the departments well catered for. Their ruck is good, their rovers are good, and I think they possess rovers apart from any other club that are pure rovers, Turco and Taylor. Taylor kicks the goals and Turco does most of the running, and they've got a centre line that's really exciting, and I think their defence is really good too. But above all, they have what Swans have also, and that's versatility, and they can play players in most positions. They're really well set for the finals.
Doro, who do you like?
Well, I think Swan Districts obviously are the best side. I mean, we're looking at Swans. They played very poorly today by all accounts, but they still had, we haven't mentioned, they've had Brad Shine, who I think is one of the most outstanding players at generating Swans ball game over the last 13, 14 games. Tremendous hard ball getter. Robert Solon and Ron Boucher, 3 for a start. They were 3 of the hardest players that you could ever get. They add them back into their side. The fact is, up till last week's loss, they were the best side on performances in the WAFL. I do believe that they are too disciplined and too strong at the present time, although I think it's a magnificent thing for Ron Alexander and the Sharks to be there, because I think it's going to draw the crowd to go along and see can they push on as they've done over the last round.
Well, Spud, the problem with influenza was mentioned at Bassendean earlier this evening. How bad is it up there?
Yes, I think it's pretty bad. I think that the likes of Keith Narkle and Phil Narkle are both out. Boucher's got a dose. I believe the trainers up there have got influenza, and that's an enormous problem because they can't do without trainers, and they've got to be in touch with players. And
call you back, Keith.
Enormous problem. But I believe that with both sides at full strength and playing well, that Swans will win easily. In fact, I still believe that Swans will win the premiership this year. But by the same token, if Swans don't recover their injuries and their sickness by next week, then East Fremantle don't lack too much. I think they're well set up all over the field. If they lack anything, it's experience.
OK, Spud, while we're with you, though, just a name to win the Sandover medal.
Michael.
Doro?
Michael.
Peter Spencer, if you're going to ask me next, I've said it anyway.
And Vookie?
Malaxis.
So there's an even spread for the Sandover medal to be decided, of course, on Tuesday night. Well, that's it in our program for this week. We'll be back with all the action next week. Hope you'll join us then.
Magro to Thorne. He'll have to hurry. Back to Magro.
There it is. I call that absolutely top umpiring.
Why?
Because the East Perth players got possessed of, and Peter Spencer being grabbed, sure. But here, this play, look, he's got the ball, handballed it over to his mate, and they're on the way again. The game's not being drawn back to stop play. That's what everyone's saying. You should.
I guess now, in hindsight, the game of the season was down at East Fremantle Oval yesterday. And the worst thing we did about 3 or 4 weeks ago was to say to Ron Alexander, every time you win, you can come out here on Sunday, because I think he's just about on the permanent staff. But to talk about the game from yesterday, nice to have you with us again.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Marty McDonald, John Rogers and Ron Alexander.
Well, as I was leaving yesterday to come out here, I heard this voice growl in the background, "I'll see you tomorrow." And I turned around and there he was with a grin from here to here. But really, if you'd looked at the quarter and half-time scoreboards yesterday, you'd have seen that there probably wasn't a great deal, or there certainly wasn't a great deal between the two sides, but there was a vast difference in the way each side scored their goals. East Perth, you know, with an almost non-existent forward line, was struggling for every goal they got and really didn't look too impressive when they went forward. East Fremantle, on the other hand, with long, accurate kicking into their forward line, precise hand passing and a fanatical desire and determination and will to win that East Perth couldn't match, really carried all before them. I thought that Kevin Taylor was an excellent link man for East Fremantle between the centre and the half-forward line. Shane Ellis, brilliant at centre-half back. Rankin, superb in the back pocket. Murray Renstead played extremely well in the centre. Mario Turco was a dynamic rover. And really, Marty, the total summation of the game, I suggest, was that East Fremantle just wanted to win far more desperately than East Perth did.
Yeah, I think that didn't apply in the first quarter. I thought they were both very desperate to get the ball, but East Fremantle definitely had the desire to go in at all costs, and they maintained it throughout. And they had a lot of runners, Ron, and you'd be happy with the big fellas like Nolan and Paul Harding. I thought they did excellently, as well as complimented by Turco and Taylor, of course.
That's right. Well, John Nolan's been a great bonus to us this year. He's come down, he's enthusiastic, you know, he loves being at the club, and he's done a great job for us, and Paul Harding's followed on from his state appearances.
He loved to rub the salt in the wounds yesterday, Nolan, when he kicked that fantastic quick goal, and he jumped up in the air. He was very jubilant about it.
Yeah, I think he's enjoying his football, and he enjoyed that goal. It was a very good goal too.
What about you, Ron Alexander, with your crook heel, and your two big players are playing very well? You mightn't get back in the side.
Well, that's you're dead right there. You know, I might be crook on the coach next week.
It's a nice position to be in, isn't it?
It is. It's a good position to be in at the right time of the year. Our injuries are very minimal.
If you're fit, will you play yourself?
At the moment, I can't see where.
Yeah, I wasn't being facetious.
No,
about
quite
that. Seriously, it would be hard to fit in, wouldn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, the game was won and lost.
Can't get an argument with Alexander today. I can see that. You're in a good mood today.
Well, I might have to schedule a bit of man-to-man training through the week and see who we can sort out.
Yeah, right. Well, the game was won by East Fremantle in the third quarter, and they kicked 6 goals. It was really up for grabs, and East Perth, when the crunch went on, didn't put in, and East Fremantle did, and that was really the story of the game. Channel 7 cameras were down there in their usual excellent form. The pictures are really superb. As I said, the game was won in the third quarter, and that's where we pick up our highlights. Well, nothing in it for the first half. 55 plays, 46. 11 points the difference. Harding done well today. Kevin Taylor sows here. That's an intelligent hand pass. Left foot from Green. Needle in front. Yes. Good mark. 2 goals he's kicked so far.
Yes, and it was this time last week, John, if you remember, just after half-time against West Perth, Needle kicked the first 2 goals immediately after half-time, and that was the break movement in that, so it looks like it could be on again. Yeah, well, he's about 35 metres out, directly in front. Looks all right. Doesn't miss too many, and that's his third. No, deadly, but it was good play out of the centre by Kevin Taylor. What a good exhibition by Taylor as he whipped that long hand pass through to set Stephen Green up. Needle determinedly jumped to the front of the pack. He grabbed his front berth and he held his body there and grabbed the mark. And it's like I said, it was almost the same situation against West Perth at Leederville last week. Of course, that was another grand final for East Fremantle. And Brian Needle kicked the first 2 goals almost in the first 3 minutes after the half-time break. And that's a handy break now. So East Fremantle deep into attack at the moment. Then it was Nolan. Cassidy in front battling. Daru with him. Cassidy finally gets a kick. Solon. Played all right too, Solon. Yeah. Got a lot of the Twins' characteristics, hasn't he? He likes to rebound. And the same sort of dash too. High kick. Harding in front. Not quite. Kelly was in there as well. Cormac.
Rainmaker. Dennison kick it. Dennis intelligently from behind. Cormac again to Kevin Taylor. He's a talented footballer, isn't he? Taylor. Needles in the right spot. Yep. Earnshaw well and truly out of position.
What a kick.
Looks like he's going to get the first two.
What a kick by Kevin Taylor, a real penetrator. That's what this football's about. Get it from centre and whack it to the square.
Well, Needles kicked one in the first, second and third. Now it's two in the third.
Yeah, the resurrection of the man they wouldn't play. He needed one game for his 150th and it never looked like he was going to get it. But all of a sudden they threw him in last week and his experience has been vital and it's on again. And I see that's the type of team man he is, Needles. He's moved up to thank Kevin Taylor for the penetration of the kick that allowed him to read it. And that's the sort of stuff that could carry East Fremantle on.
Well, East Fremantle have scored 2 goals this quarter so far. East Perth have not added to their half-time score. 8 minutes into the third quarter, 10-8, 68 to 7-4, 46.
Yes, it's break time in this game, John, right at this stage. If East Perth are to play any part in it, I personally will be surprised if they are, but if they are to play any part in it, they've got to kick back now.
This is where it's got to happen. The breeze really isn't favouring a particular end. It's more blowing across the ground. Ironmonger versus Harding. Ironmonger that time. Renstead in the middle. Kick it. Held when not in possession. Graham kick it. To half forward. Solon. Nolan tried to get it on. Christian left it behind. Cassidy didn't. Was meant for Taylor. Daru going in. And it's well into East Fremantle's forward line. It's forward of the 50-metre situation.
Stan Magro pleased to be playing on a half-forward flank now. That's hard to understand.
Nolan used his body well. Kick. He was held. That was a kick too. I think he threw that, didn't he, Ironmonger? This is Dennis versus Kickett. Brennan closing. Dennis. Oh, Thorne. Brennan. Johnson. He's sunk, but doesn't worry him. A lot of courage from the young fella. That's Sterrett. Oh, it's easy for them at the moment. Kevin Taylor. Shouldn't have played on then, I don't think. Cassidy versus Walsh.
Oh, geez, slow Walsh.
Yeah, up and down on the spot.
Seems to want to run second to me too often, Walsh. I know he's had a lot of injuries and he's probably not fully fit enough to play the football that I've seen him play for so many games.
Ironmonger and Nolan. Ironmonger in front, but he doesn't tap it accurately. Kick it, caught by Walsh.
Yes, that was a 3/4 of an hour tackle. I didn't think Ron Bucky was going to pay that one.
Oh, it had to.
East Perth have got to move their ball longer and stronger, John. They're chipping too much.
Yeah. High kicks. They haven't got Johnson from behind. Kick it, reading it well. Oh, look at Taylor all by himself again. 45 metres. Long kick. Brilliant play, Kevin Taylor. Absolutely superb.
He just absolutely sits there, but you know, I don't know how many times I've said it this year when we've been calling East Fremantle games, he plays between centre and half forward.
I think they'd wake up, wouldn't he?
Well, you know, he's got an opponent at that stage. Actually, he was off the ball, I think, at that stage. You know, it absolutely staggers me, but he's been the story just as well for East Fremantle that he regained fitness for this particular game, but he's a magnificent player and he's really hitting the ball with his boot. He's thumping it over long distances and he's kicking the cover off it and he's kicking it from the right side of the ground.
10 minutes in, 11-8, 74 to 7-4, 46. Scott out from full forward. That's a sort of panic move. Johnson flashing back. Easy as you like. That's Rankin into half forward.
Not good mark.
Grand mark to Sparks.
It must rate for the mark of the day. Excellent mark by Sparks.
Yep.
But you know, we've got to see more of people like Thorne at the moment. The names are doing nothing.
He's not fit. I can guarantee it.
Well, neither's supposed to be Taylor, but he's putting in.
Yeah, Thorne can't train. He trains down to swimming pool. It's all he can do is wade. Magro to half forward.
We talked him into a kick, I think, John.
Yeah. I think he got it for the free kick, not the mark, though.
Yeah, but Taylor's training in a swimming pool too. You know, you've got to put yourself in if you're out there, John, and Thorne's, he's not putting in.
Okay. Dennis. Thorne to Dennis was all right. To Scott. Scott's around. He's inside 50 metres. He can score from there, but he kicked that way. Why didn't he allow for the breeze? He's a full forward. He should know that.
Yeah, he's only just a full forward. East Perth got problems in their forward line, but at the moment East Perth I'd be, you know, as I say, East Fremantle just got too much equipment.
Shane Ellis, Johnson and Turner. Max Johnson will get that kick. Number 31 coming out of the almost on the right half back flank. Good pass. 23 is Keys. Keys going towards right centre wing. Christian. Sterrett. Still Sterrett, well done. Nice pass to Jones. They're on the boil, East Fremantle, are they ever? Needle, almost a one-hander. Taylor's through again. Kevin Taylor, he's going to have a shot. Still Taylor. Missed.
Yes, I thought he might have got a free kick then. By geez, full of confidence at the moment, Taylor, and he and Needle are cooperating well together.
Yeah.
Needle pushed that ball on for Taylor to be set up, and Taylor's got a bit of a limp. By geez, in top form.
It was very close, wasn't it? Earnshaw. No, he had to give it to. Well, now went for Daru. Too far for him. Kick it! In between two of them. That's symptomatic of the way East Perth are playing at the moment. Totally indecisive.
Yeah, well, of course, Ironmonger didn't give him anything to kick to. The ruckman's supposed to do that.
And kick it totally off balance when he had a dash then.
You know, that's the whole point, John. The full-back should have the ruckman available to kick the ball to, and Ironmonger was standing into the breeze at the moment. Ironmonger was standing up on the centre square line.
Yeah.
Now, there's no way Earnshaw could have kicked the ball that far. And Ironmonger's still not putting himself into the play. He might do now.
Okay, so they're looking for Ironmonger. Harding from behind. Ironmonger almost being held. Kick it breaking through. Stephen Green. Sterrett almost on the 50-metre line. Down to Jones. Jones from 30 metres.
Missed.
And East Fremantle beset a little bit with inaccuracy at the moment.
Yeah, but they're right in control of the football at the moment.
Yep.
Ron, criticism earlier in the season about the way the side was going and the players that you got rid of, but the juniors that you brought on stood you in good stead?
We've got some very good juniors down at the club. They've matured over the year. They've played in a lot of hard games. But they've got a bit of experience around them now to help them out, and that's vital.
Yeah.
Pete, I thought the third quarter, that was the break time of the game, and I thought the East Fremantle defence at that stage created most of the opportunities. It was surprising by players like Shane Ellis, Cormac, who I thought was outstanding at this stage, and Rankin. Rankin gave you a bit of hurry up, but I thought it was strange that Magra went to a half-forward flank and sort of took no part in the game at that stage.
Yes, Percy, Shane Ellis played a great game, and he was a stumbling block to us all day. Stan Magro has had a few problems with his legs over the latter part of the season, and I think they could have been a bit of a worry to him yesterday, and we put him up forward to hopefully get in and get the ball and shovel it out, but it didn't really work.
It must have been a bit of a problem, because at that stage, to me, Cormac became actually the link man. He seemed to ruck rove in the back line, and he got a draw on, and Stephen Green had popped up on the end of passes, and of course we saw what Taylor did when he got into open space.
Yes, that's right. East Fremantle completely outran us yesterday. Wayne Cormac's an extremely good runner. He's played well against us in other games through the year, and he was one player, as you said, that gave them a lot of rebound from the half-back line.
And what about Rankin? How did you feel about him? I believe you worked together, but how did you feel about him when you were sort of hobbling around there and in the hands of the trainers, and David was giving you a bit of hurry up?
Yeah. David plays the game extremely hard, and really I admire him for the way that he went out and approached the game, and I think if all the East Perth players had approached the game in that manner, it might have been a bit of a closer game.
Ron, you've got to obviously gee the fellas up for next week in the first semi. Is that going to be a problem, or are they, quite often it happens that the important thing is to get in and players relax and think, well, we're in the four, and then don't sort of go on with it?
Yeah, we've got to consider that, but most of them are fairly down-to-earth types of guys. They know that Swan Districts will be going in favourites. Everyone's been talking about it's a final three, not a final four. We've been knocked all year, and people haven't given us a chance all year, and we'll just sneak along this week and see what happens on Saturday.
Ron, they talk about the young blokes, and everyone keeps talking about the young blokes at East Fremantle, but blokes like Keys, must have been written off 3 or 4 weeks ago, was just seemingly rotting in the reserves, and Brian Needle, they've done a big job coming back.
Well, that's right. Peter's been perhaps unlucky not to be in the side a little bit earlier, but things just didn't fall with selection for him to get in, but he's taken his chance, and he's enjoying himself and playing very good football. Brian Needle, a lot of people suggested we should have played him earlier for his 150th game, but Brian's earned his 150th game and his 151st, and I'm sure his 152nd as well. And he's been a credit, and the players love to see him going well. And he fights for the ball, and that's all you can ask.
He is fighting it forward, isn't he? You know, he's chasing and tackling and bringing the ball to a standstill there.
Well, he's an ex-backman. And one thing a backman hates is sitting watching the ball come easily out of a forward line, and he makes sure it doesn't come easily out of our forward line.
Well, if the East Fremantle players have got any problems getting themselves G'd up for next week, maybe the balance of these highlights will help them.
Yes, East Fremantle are fired up now. They've come out with a lot of purpose in this third quarter, realising third quarters win footy matches.
11-10, 76-7, 5-47. Spencer on one leg, absolutely. Cormac, needle the target. Thumped away by Earnshaw. Dennis in trouble at the moment. Cox. Nolan spoiled Renstead. Spencer. Injured Peter Spencer. Scott up to half forward. Shane Ellis in front. Good back up from Cormac. Brennan's loose, too far for him. 22 is Williams to Walsh. Brennan grabbed him beautifully.
Oh, that's a hard one.
Gee, that was quick, wasn't it?
That's a hard one. That's a hard one. He hardly touched the footy before Ron Bucky blew the whistle.
Mike Brennan. Stephen Green on right centre wing. Kevin Taylor the target. Cox with him. Taylor's round Cox. Out towards Turco. Christian on the bottom for East Perth. And that's Sterrett over the top.
I don't know whether Stan Magro's injured, but this is, to me, is absolutely crazy to have this fella sitting, East Fremantle going with the bruise in the third quarter, and this fella sitting at half forward.
Ironmonger with a tap. Stephen Green through. Needle in front. Earnshaw behind. Solon trying to battle. Daru. Socket off the ground.
Goal.
It's a goal.
Goal.
Well done by Cassidy.
By Jig. And didn't Daru make a mistake on that occasion? He could have carried his ball through a steady prop to look for the free kick. Now that was a tragic mistake for East Perth, but Jeff Cassidy followed up, fluked the ball onto his boot, it rolled onto the tip of his toe, and through she went. And there's the break, 12-10 to 7-5, 5-5. Well, I thought East Fremantle win by between 5 and 10. I'm halfway there at the moment. East Perth are getting absolutely nothing. This move of Scott to centre half forward is a bad move because they're getting no movement across their half forward line at all.
Nolan to Renstead. Keys. Renstead. Half forward. Johnson. Oh, they're running all over the place at the moment. Max Johnson to full forward. Needle out in front. Solon coming through for the backup. To right centre wing. Kelly to Peter Thorne. Thorne to Dean Turner. Turner's through. Long kick. Edwards a target. Shane Ellis just pushed him out of the road. He's twice his size. How can he do that? Ellis.
I suppose Ashenko's sitting on the bench somewhere.
I guess. Green to Rankin. As easy as you like. Rankin, right centre wing. It looks like Jones into the pocket. I think Mario must have fallen for the old 3-carder.
Yeah.
Leave it.
I think he thought it was Ned calling.
Earnshaw. Ironmonger. Doesn't take enough of those, huh? Oh, Billy.
A little bit going on out there.
Can't do that.
Kick him in the backside might wake him up.
He'd never kick that high, would he? They all stood back and waited. That's Cormac. Murray Renstead, 32. This is Cassidy. Cassidy using the ball superbly to Mario Turco. He's through from 30 metres out.
Goal.
Turco's kick looks good. East Fremantle are burning.
Yes, they're absolutely running riot. They're running riot. The back line is rebounding tremendously well. I reckon Wayne Cormac's doing a colossal job on that half-back flank. And it's been since he's been on Stan Magro. Stan Magro's not doing the chasing. Cormac's starting to come over from that half-back flank and he's catching people out. And East Fremantle seem to be catching them out right down along that flank. Stephen Green's a danger. Turco's a danger. And the whole side at East Perth seems to be completely unbalanced at this stage.
That looks like Ashenko warming up, is it, to come on the ground? Need a bit of height. 13-10-88 East Fremantle. East Perth have not added a goal since half-time. Quarter's 19 minutes old, the third quarter. Ironmonger over the top. 27's Dawson. Rankin versus Turner. Turner not getting away. Ooh. Must be a kick.
Yeah. Yes, I think he had to get that one.
could have just let it run out of bounds, I guess. Dean Turner into half forward to Thorne. Peter Thorne is going to kick from 25, 30 metres out from goal.
Don't put your bottom dollar on it. The way he kicks it high, he'd be lucky to clear the man on the mark.
5 goals East Fremantle have kicked for the quarter, and East Perth have just added their first.
Yes, and they needed that.
The game was fairly tight for the first half, but East Fremantle appear to be doing it a lot easier, and East Perth struggling for most of the day. The third quarter was where the damage was all done, and East Fremantle, Ron, certainly able to keep East Perth well and truly at bay, and it was a game which obviously deserved to win.
Yes, I think we deserved to win it. We wanted to win the game more.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything to lose. East Perth were perhaps in a more precarious position than we were, and I think we'll go into the next week's game with the same situation.
Well, it's the big boys next week, Ron, isn't it? It's the final, and you probably expected it, but the first time for the whole season you've hit the front or made the 4. Coming into it, you're against a wily customer in John Todd. Now, last season he employed a funny kind of a move. He had Narkle in the centre, acting as a rover come centre man. Will you be aware of these type of things that could go on with a smarty like Toddy?
Well, that's not a funny sort of move. That's just trying to get your best personnel into the centre bounce where quite often football games are started from. And if you've got your best personnel in there, it gets you off to a handy break if you can get first use of the ball. But
pretty hard to determine, though, when the sides are out there all in a heap, isn't it? And you'll be off, apparently, on the outside looking on this time. And who have you got with you? Who's the other brains trust? Not that I'm saying that you haven't got the brains.
Trevor Sprigg and Gary Gibellini. We have a natter about things, but you know, we're not going to spend all our week worrying about what John Todd's going to do. He can spend half his week worrying about what the East Fremantle Football Club's going to do, because we don't have a lot to lose on Saturday. We've been written off for the whole year. They finished in 3rd spot, premiership favourites and everything else. So we'll just take things quietly and see what happens.
You wouldn't need any motivating now. That's already been done, don't you think?
Well, the players have got tremendous spirit. They believe in themselves, and you can't ask for more than that.
What sort of, talking about next week, what will your preparation be? How will the week spin itself out?
Our preparation will be a reasonably hard Monday night, and then we'll freshen up for Saturday.
Sharp stuff.
And just looking at the players that missed out yesterday, there's Roger Crouch, Colin Watterson, Rod Lester-Smith, yourself, and Kerr. So there's a few players playing reserves to come back, isn't it?
Well, it's one of those situations where when the side's announced, someone's going to be very unhappy.
Well, there were many more highlights from the game, and we've pulled a few out to show you. And we mentioned a little earlier that Peter Spencer hurt his ankle, and David Rankin made the most of the situation. And of course, as Marty McDonald will say, you're playing for keeps, you're not playing for funds, and this is what eventuated.
Telling the runner he's all right, but I doubt it very much. He appears to be in dire straits there, Peter Spencer.
And Rankin giving him a hard time, and why wouldn't he?
That's right. The name of the game is professionalism, and he's copping the lot now, but he just turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to that Peter Spencer, and he's trying to run it out.
Rankin's going to hassle him the whole way through. That's not bad back pocket play either.
It's top stuff. Little bit sounds a bit cruel, but playing for keeps, not for lens.
Having seen that, Peter, how did it strike you?
Well, yeah, as I said earlier, John...
Why didn't you whack him in the eye?
No, I didn't think it was the thing to do. I was too worried about my ankle at that stage, Marty. But
I don't mean that, Peter.
Yeah, no, he plays it hard, and you know, I've got no complaints at all about that, and it's just the way that football's played.
Well, Peter Spencer certainly made his mark in the game, irrespective of the fact that that ankle held him back a little bit. Have a look at this mark that he took in front of goal.
Away by Brennan. That's Dennis, though, for East Perth. Spencer lurking. Oh, it's a top mark. Isn't that a brilliantly judged mark?
If they ever build a monument to football, they could call its name Peter Spencer. The man's got tremendous character. I saw him cop that injury last week. There's no way he should be out here today.
Appropriate comments from Percy Johnson about that one, and not content with that, and he goal from that mark actually did Peter Spencer. Have a look at the snapshot that he performed up the other end of the ground a few moments later.
The big fellas in the goal square.
A long kick. Edwards got the sit. Thumped away well. Spencer left foot. Oh, what a footballer.
Oh, beautiful.
What a brilliant effort.
Didn't get much time to get that one away, did you?
No, it was a good punch from the East Fremantle backman. I was quite thankful for that one, John.
Well, plays of the day were the order of the day. East Fremantle, you saw some of the highlights of the way their teamwork moulded together. We've got some more of them to show you now.
Ironmonger. Straight to Ellis. We love that. Shane Ellis over the top towards Kickett. Ashenko close. Oh, missed. Don't know who he was going for. He could have had Kickett on a plate had he wanted him, but well done to Ellis. Ellis into half forward. Cassidy, 2 to beat and did it well. That's Cormac backing up well. 11 is Fields. 8 is Kevin Taylor. He'll have a shot from there. It's a long kick. It's a good kick. And it's East Fremantle's 5th. Sterrett. Still Sterrett. Well done. Nice pass to Jones. They're on the boil, East Fremantle, are they ever? Needle. Almost a one-hander. Taylor's through again. Kevin Taylor. He's going to have a shot. Still Taylor. Missed.
Yes, I thought he might have got a free kick then.
Straight to Shane.
Man Ellis. Top game, Ellis.
Played well, hasn't he? Gee, look at that. Straight across the ground. Stephen Green. East Fremantle evolved. This, isn't it?
You get away with anything when you're winning like that, then kick them anywhere. And mark them and be there.
Absolutely. Green to Cassidy. Cassidy to Cormac. Cormac to Turco. Turco around Morgan. Easily as you like. Still Mario Turco. Round to Roo. To Jones. Jones inside 50 metres. He'll have a dip. Good kick from Jones. Oh, what a passage of play. Yes, it was brilliant stuff, wasn't it? That was the sort of thing that East Fremantle were doing for most of the day. But I guess the play of the day to end all plays of the day resulted in a goal to a very, very happy back pocket player. Brian Needle. Daru closing. Needle back to Stephen Green. Green left foot. There's any one of about 4 or 5. Rankin, he can run into almost 25 metres. Gets around to Schenko. Has a shot through Walsh. And there it is. He's wrapped in that. And why wouldn't he be?
Back pocket players kicking goals now. My word, they're presenting themselves well. The East Fremantle players, they're popping up everywhere. There's that confidence. They have that much confidence in each other. Getting the ball, and they know there's players running on and position themselves beautifully for it. And they're doing just that now.
You heard Peter Spencer grinding his teeth when Rankin was kicking that goal. East Perth were not without their moments. They also featured in some of the plays of the day. To Thorne. Thorne to Earnshaw. In turn to Spencer. Spencer to Dennis. Dennis wisely stopped.
Yes, he was gone for all money, but he kept going.
Back to Earnshaw. Earnshaw to full forward. And that's one of the best passages of play for East Perth today, I would say. But unfortunately, they were few and far between. We'll be back with some more.
Well, Peter, I think we've left East Perth off the hook a bit too easy today. I mean, this was a semi-final yesterday, as good as it, and I felt, and I know Greg Brio felt, I was having a bit of a yarn to him after he was let down by some of the weak performances by your bigger players. We've praised East Fremantle and they deserved it, but to me, the big fellas did not give enough.
Well, Marty, I thought John Ironmonger's performance was a reasonably good one. He battled hard right through the day, and
yes,
even though at times his knocks weren't directed as well as they could be, he did try.
What about big Craig Edwards and Ashenko? To me, they didn't give enough at all.
No, well, Craig Edwards has had a very, probably for Craig, a disappointing season. He's been up and down all year. Last week he played a great game, and then Saturday no good at all. Alex Oshenko is a very young player, needs to work a lot on his skills, and Greg's already spoken to them about
agreeably he's young. It was a disappointing finish as far as the coach was concerned.
Right.
But one young bloke for East Perth who did put in yesterday was Stephen Daru, but after this I bet he wished the ground could have opened up for him to hide. Needle in front, Earnshaw behind, Solent trying to battle. Daru, sock it off the ground.
Goal!
It's a goal!
Goal!
Well done by Cassidy.
By Jig. And didn't Daru make a mistake on that occasion? He could have carried his ball through a steady prop to look for the free kick. And that was a tragic mistake for East Perth, but Jeff Cassidy followed up, fluked the ball onto his boot, it rolled onto the tip of his toe, and through she went.
Embarrassing at times like that, isn't it? Well, it wasn't what you'd call a physical game from a bump point of view, but there was one beauty yesterday which unfortunately was penalised. Taylor and Magro, neither. Wilson's 19, Daru closing. Kevin Taylor, oh, he's hit. They're all getting hit.
Good bump, I thought.
I thought it was an excellent bump.
Excellent bump.
And they're going to give Taylor a kick. Couldn't see. They did. I don't think he goaled from it, but I felt in that instance, perhaps, Marty, they were over-umpiring just a smidgen.
I thought so. I thought they made quite a few mistakes yesterday. And Ross Gates will taking notice, but it left a lot to be desired, John.
Well, from the other point of view, it was a fairly physical game, and we feature for you now the punch of the day.
We're going to, anyhow.
I think.
They're trying to find it.
That's not it.
We got it or not?
We haven't got it. Do we have the unnoticed knock
Ross
of the
Capes
day?
came in and wiped the tape. It's all right.
We haven't got the unnoticed knock of the day either.
Right.
So, Ron, let's ask you. We talked about what you were going to do next week. Says he, graping. What do you think Swan District's going to come up with?
25th
Well,
players.
yeah, exactly. They're going to play.
Do you
the best
believe
side
the flu thing? Are there players under a cloud?
Look,
from,
if you've got
from
the flu, you can still play football. I don't think that stops you that much from playing football.
Ron, one point that interests me after the 3 games that you've had against Swans during the season is that you got walloped on each occasion, and I think walloped is the correct word. You've got to now butter up against a side. What sort of a psychological barrier is that you've got to get through to the players?
I don't think it's a great barrier at all, because people haven't expected that we'd be playing in the first semi-final. People didn't expect that we'd knock East Perth out in the last game. We had nothing to lose. We went into a game yesterday with nothing to lose.
I think you went in yesterday favourites, probably.
Well, perhaps so, but, we certainly don't go in favourites next week. And, we haven't got anything to lose. They've got to beat us. They've got to make sure they score more goals than we do.
You go into 2 form rovers in the league at the moment too. Do you realise that? Taylor and Turco.
I do realise that. A very good ruckman, a very good side. People can now underestimate us, and I'll be happy with that.
Well,
Go on, if we found it.
Yeah, we've got the lackeys wound up again, so let's have a look at the punch of the day that we were speaking about earlier. Rounding a long way out. Obviously he's not going to try for the goals. There's the lead from Needle. Good lead, brilliant pass. And it's on now. Yes. Jones went in there. Thorne's in on the top. Cox was the offender. And no love lost at the moment. Bit of hair pulling going on there.
Yeah, there wouldn't be much room to throw punches there. They're right on top of each other.
Ironmonger doing a bit of dragging.
East Fremantle can't afford to lose players through suspension at this stage.
Cannot. Ironmonger still having a pull. Daru. And there's another one happening. Taylor, Ashenko. Umpires are there. Still Kevin Taylor. Thorne as well. Somebody's going to throw one in a minute.
Some nasty words being said, but I haven't seen many punches thrown.
Sterrett was there.
A lot of pulling and shoving.
Umpires are booing, or the crowd is booing fairly solidly. Cormac, Thorne.
And Shane Ellis is showing a lot of intelligence by taking Kevin Taylor out of the fracas. It's about time someone did. Can't lose valuable players in a bit of a push and shoving match.
Ron, hard to understand with all players involved like that how just 2 could have been reported. It was, I reckon, it'd be very hard to distinguish anything in that lot.
Well, we had a good look at the incident this morning, and the incident that Kevin Taylor was reported for was in the centre of the television screen then.
You just couldn't see it. There's nothing happened.
Well,
not a reportable offence.
The magistrate will make his decision,
That's
but
right.
I'm sure that our advocate will be calling for the videotape.
We're talking about punch-ups and pushes and shoves. This one went unnoticed, and we've entitled it the unnoticed knock of the day. Jones a bit further up the ground. Jones. On Billy Jones's face, he was almost going to get up and have a go, but he thought, no, maybe I better not. We're in front, we're going easy, so he didn't. But these things happen. And now, if the younger people amongst you would be aware that the dance of the day at the moment is called the Electric Boogie, and we think that an East Fremantle and East Perth player capped it off to perfection.
Electric Boogie, never heard of it.
You're too old.
I know.
This is Turco. Stephen Green, cleverly by Green, and there's a fight on in the centre of the ground. Ironmonger, and I don't know who, it's probably Harding.
Nobody's fighting or kissing him. They're laying on top of
He's
him.
going on, kick it from 50 metres, and that was through Cox's hand, and it was Harding and Ironmonger.
What's the longest cuddle and kiss I've
Wouldn't
seen?
worry Harding one little bit.
Yeah, that in fact was a prelude to the Electric Boogie. That was the cuddle of the day, and now have a look at the dance of the day, the Electric Boogie. Being held will get a kick.
Well, tell you what, he might have lost it.
Silly if he does. He's got the kick. Why would he do that? Don't they do it well?
They're trying to work out who's going to lead.
Yeah, I was just to say, left foot forward, right foot forward.
Do you do Electric Boogie, Ron? Do you know anything about that, David?
Well, I gave Peter lessons on that. That didn't just happen on the spur of the moment.
You did it very well then. You're a good shooter. You're dancing, a little bit of coaching.
Well, it was to get the free kick, you see. That's why I was doing it. He
got
won
good-
the award.
got real good rhythm, hasn't he? And Marty McDonald had a little bit to say today and yesterday, and he had a few words to say about one of the East Perth players. Now he's over the centre. Short pass to Edwards is a good one.
Good effort by Dennis. Wheeled his way through the crowd and let it go.
Oh, Edwards is off.
He's gone.
He's gone. Well and truly gone. He was called to play on, rightly so, and was caught.
Craig Edwards at times hasn't got one brain in his head. Football brain I'm talking about. He does not think.
Don't respect that either.
And not content with that, Mick Cronin, the late Mick Cronin, was famous for the phrase, he has to shunt to turn. Captain Dyer, Blood Dyer, once said, he goes where the ball ain't, and you have joined the list of immortals.
I want to hear what this is, John.
Disposal's terrible at the moment, East Perth. They're on the way then, good play, and deliberately kick the ball to the boundary. They must look for team players running, and they're doing just not that.
They're doing just not that, which will go down as undoubtedly one of the classics.
Grammatically, Ron, I'm obviously not perfect and well from it, but looking back on those things, John, I was in here early today and we took a few snippets on the early performances here and we show you what real pain means and how you can express it so beautifully. I hope we can get this coming up. Here, listen to this, John.
Come on, Arnie, get into it. That's dirty pool. That's dirty. I was worried for Peter Spencer because it looked as if the whole sky was going to fall in on him at that stage. But, yeah, OK. No comment.
Righto. Anything else to say about this game?
No, I'd say that I was disappointed in East Perth. I was proud of East Fremantle, the fight they put up, but the game's ahead of Ron next week, and he's aware of that, and I think that he'll approach it in that manner. You've got 20 players, probably 26 players dying to get out there because they haven't had their teeth in a final for a long while.
Well, I'm pleased with the bunch of players we've got. They're a very spirited bunch, a very talented bunch, and I'm proud to be their coach.
And you get the coaching job next year now, mate, there's no worries, is there?
Yeah, well, you're a couple of weeks behind, Marty. They've already organised that for next year.
Hey,
where were you? There you go.
There was a bit of...
second midstream, don't take it for granted, you know.
There was a bit of your vintage down there yesterday, is that right? Nostalgia Day down there as well?
Was that so?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Con Regan and Jack Clark and Wilson Onions and Ray Sorrell did a parade around the ground. It was very exciting as far as the old champions were concerned.
Spurred the players on a bit?
Yeah, I think it did. It was a good move, that. It was very good because big names and top players.
I beg your pardon?
We've yet to look, of course, at the contenders for yesterday's Town and Country goal of the day and Ian Diffin mark of the day. East Perth doing most of the attacking so far. Towards half forward or top mark. That's Brennan, wing, Peter Spencer. Man of enormous courage to be playing there today. And another top mark to Brennan. It's not going to be any trouble for Kelly. It was too far for him to mark. And that kick is not bad. It was a great mark to Williams. Away by Brennan. That's Dennis, though, for East Perth. Spencer lurking. Oh, it's a top mark. And East Fremantle very hungry for the ball at the moment. Taylor's by himself from 55 metres out. It's a good-looking kick. What's he done? I think he's brought up the first goal. He has. Out past the 25-metre line. We'll put that almost to the wing. Ironmonger and Harding. Oh, Harding, strong mark. Harding. They got back up at the moment. It looked like Fields. To half forward. Kick it. Grand mark. Courageous stuff with Magro coming in. Cassidy will kick from about 45 metres out. Won't bother in the distance.
Certainly didn't.
And a ball a smidgen short. There's the mark. Being taken there by Wilson. Centre Kevin Taylor in front. This is Spencer. Spencer looking for Turner. Oh, Rankin brilliantly. Kevin Taylor finally into the centre. Turner behind. Top mark, one-hander. This is Needle. Haven't seen much of him today. Through comes Turco. Left foot from Mario. Turco's a beauty. Now they've got to clear through Sparks quickly, which he does. Kelly in front. Used his body superbly. Easy as you like. That's Rankin into half forward.
Not good, man.
Grand mark to Sparks. Earnshaw. No, to give it to. Oh, now went for Daru. Too far for him. Kick it! In between two of them. This is Sterrett. Oh, grand mark to Daru. Needle in front. Earnshaw behind. Solon trying to battle. Daru. Socket off the ground. Goal. It's a goal. Goal. Well done by Cassidy. Nolan the target. Oh, pushed in from Solon went unnoticed.
Oh, Nolan's emerged. King, can't believe it. It's a goal.
Yes.
Brilliant play. That's Kelly. Kelly to half forward. Yes.
So there's certainly plenty of action down there yesterday. On the social notes, we talked about Claremont earlier on. At East Fremantle this week, on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, there's a replay of that game from yesterday in the club rooms, and then on Thursday night at 7 o'clock, there's a panel show, and all members and friends are welcome. That's 6 o'clock on Tuesday night for the replay, 7 o'clock for the panel show on Thursday night down at East Fremantle. And Marty, you can have the final word.
Yeah, well, I was set up a bit by John Rogers a moment ago, and I'd like to introduce a little bit of nostalgia we pictured here quite a few years ago. Just sit back and have a look at this, John, and don't be so proud of yourself. You've been a pain to a few people, and this is where you've created a pain in yourself. Have a look at this.
Why pop it up like that to a man that's got a crook leg?